Hello and welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 25A.
I'm Cam and this is Jilly.
Hello.
This week's Torah portion will be from Genesis 47:28 to the end of the book of Genesis. Let's start with a quick rehash of what happened. We have Jacob about to die. So he calls in Joseph and he's like, look, I need you to swear to me that you're going to bury me in the cave of Machpelah with my forefathers, with Abraham and Isaac, their wives, and Leah is there waiting for him. And it's interesting because he makes the promise the same way that Abraham made the promise with his servant. He made him put his hand under his thigh. It's very close to the sign of the covenant, which has to do with circumcision. When two people going into covenant, they would usually mix their blood. I guess that's where we get the idea of blood brothers. So they would cut, let's say maybe cut on their arm, and they would fester with it to make sure that it would leave a visible scar. That visible scar would be the sign that they are in covenant with someone. Now that even makes more sense why the Lord would say circumcision will be the sign of the covenant. It's not the covenant, it's the sign that you are in covenant with the Lord.
Right.
Just thought that was kind of cool.
That is cool.
So anyhow, back to the hand under the thigh, because it's the closest to the covenant, to the sign of the covenant. So he's basically saying, look, this is how important it is. He keeps the promise. Then the next chapter, going into 48, has to do with he's feeling ill, going to die soon, and Joseph is like, I'm taking my sons, let's go. So he brings his two sons, Ephraim and Mannasseh. Well, that is just,
love this story.
Oh my gosh, so full of information.
Love it.
Because when you get,
Sorry. I do.
When you get a real concept, understanding of what's going on with Ephraim and Mannasseh, yeah, it's awesome. Because that is where we realize, you know what?
We're a part of this too.
Yes, and not only that, it was not an afterthought. Oh yeah, let me bring these guys in. Genesis 48:4 is a really important part of understanding what's going on, where Jacob is about to bring in his Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Mannasseh. And he goes through the rehashing, basically, of the promise that the Lord gave him. And that's basically where Jacob is repeating what happened in Genesis 35:11. And in 35:11, the Lord tells him that he's going to make him a nation and a company, a great nation and company. Those are two things.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. And so the idea of a company means something added. So the sages suggest that the reason why Jacob knew it was important to bring in Joseph's children was because he remembered the promise from the Lord, which is why he replies right here. And right here he says, assembly of peoples, because now he gets it. It's the bringing of his sons with Ephraim and Manasseh together. That's what's going to be the promise.
Yes. Isn't that cool?
In Matthew 16, I think it's 18, where Yeshua says, upon this rock I will build my church. In the Greek, it's ecclesia. So ecclesia is like, well, where do you get that? Well, if you go back, it comes from the Hebrew
Take it back
part.
one more step.
Yes, back to the Hebrew. So where you look there, when Jacob is speaking right here, he's talking that the Lord's going to make him a kahal. Yes, which would be when Yeshua says, on this I will build my kahal. Basically, he's saying, look, I am doing the part. I'm helping fulfill what was given to Jacob. I'm pulling out again that other remnant to make. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is what Jacob's people are supposed to look like. This is what Israel is supposed to look like.
Right.
I love that. So
because of what he went through,
right,
and because of his resurrection,
which is why
now he can make it.
Right. That's why the northern Manasseh and Ephraim really, because Ephraim's name is used to include all that, the northern, they were able to come back in through Yeshua. So he wasn't kidding when he said, on this I will build my. He's going to do the Jeremiah 31:31. He started that. Jeremiah 31:31 talks about how it's all going to come back together and starting that new covenant.
Write it on
the
the
new
heart.
covenant, writing on the heart. No longer a heart of stone, but a heart of flesh. So I love it because
That's awesome.
you see Yeshua coming back to here. All those word studies, they're awesome. They're lots of fun.
Yes.
We're back to where Jacob is talking to Joseph, and he gives a recap of what the Lord promised. He touches on Rachel. Now, by him also adopting, now Rachel is not going to have 2 children. She's going to have 4 children, which now puts her above the maidens. as far as the number of children she has.
Yeah. Oh, because Ephraim and Mannasseh.
Right, because Ephraim and Mannasseh will add. So now she will have 4, and then the 2 maids will have the 2. So here we have Joseph with his 2 boys presenting them. And Jacob says, well, who are they? Okay, it's not like Jacob hasn't seen them before. It's said by the sages that actually Ephraim studied regularly under Jacob, learning the ways. So we have where he says, who are they? Again, a ceremonial type thing. We go back to the same event when Jacob walked in with Isaac, and Isaac said, who are you? It's the same idea. Here goes a blessing. Here goes something that's important. Now, I've also heard it said, well, he really couldn't see who they were. Okay, that's fine. I'm not arguing that point either. I'm just saying that there's also a ceremonial aspect here that we cannot remove from the story. So he's asking, who are they? And Joseph brings them forth. Ephraim and Manasseh, my 2 sons. It says he brings them from their knees. Now remember, they're not little old boys. They're in their 20s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah, they're in their 20s. So Joseph sets the boys in the proper order, oldest to youngest. And they know that. I love this because Joseph, who is the younger, right, but now has the blessing of the family, the double portion, right? Yet he's putting his 2 children up there in the proper order, first and second.
Right.
And when his father crosses his hands, Joseph is like, oh, no, don't let it be. It's got to be this way. So in a way, it's kind of interesting that Joseph didn't go, oh, yeah, whatever you want to do. I understand that, youngest and oldest.
Yeah.
But he's like, no. Yet his father says, no, you don't understand. Yes. Because remember their names, Ephraim and Manasseh. Manasseh means so that I would forget, and Ephraim means to be fruitful. And basically, Jacob is saying, no, you're not going to forget and become fruitful. You're now going to be fruitful, which will allow you to forget. So he's crossed that. Let's go down to 48:19. Yet his younger brother is greater than he. His seed is to become the completeness of the nations.
Yes.
It could also
Fullness of the
be
Gentiles.
Exactly. It can also be called the fullness of the Gentiles. So where does this sound familiar? How about from Romans 11? So let's look at 11:25. It says, I do not wish you to be ignorant of the secret, brothers, lest you should be wise in your own estimate. The hardening part that has come over Israel until the completeness of the nations has come. So see, when Ephraim, back in Genesis, when Ephraim is being brought in, adopted as Jacob's very sons, equal heirs, Ephesians 2, we are now co-heirs, equal heirs, right?
Yes.
Because it's talking about there. The northern kingdom, those who had been cut off, couldn't come in. Now they can. That's what Ephesians is talking about. We as Gentiles get to come in because there was that breach. Because it's not through our DNA lineage, that's through the blood that brings us into Yeshua.
Right.
It's through the lineage, through Yeshua, in the spiritual blood that we're covered in. And again, we wouldn't have the opportunity if it wasn't for the fact that the northern kingdom, Ephraim, is cut off. And right here, Jacob's basically saying, not until the fullness of Ephraim. So let's move down to 49, because it really hooks in. We just realized that Ephraim and Manasseh, from going to Romans, that really has a lot to do with the end times.
Right.
Well, 49 is too. 49 is where he gives the blessings over the sons, but these are end time prophecies. And we even know that because he says in 49:1, I declare to you what is to befall you in the last days.
Yes.
While each of the sons have a blessing, and we see here Ephraim and Manasseh are not specifically given blessing. It's given to Joseph because he receives the double portion. So within that is Ephraim and Manasseh.
Right.
They're functioning in that. We know that Yeshua came the first time as a suffering servant, son of Joseph. And we know the second time he comes as the son of David, right? Well, we have 2 blessings that are full of information. And one is to Joseph, and the other one is to Judah, which is the line of David. Okay?
Yes.
Those are the most important ones. Those are descriptions of the millennium when Yeshua is reigning. So, they know this, okay? So the things that they're looking for when he comes is the wine. Because it says that they'll clothe his garments in wine. It means there's an abundance of wine. But when it says his robes will be in the blood of grapes, now we're talking war. So we have those 2 things. So when his mom said the wine, and he goes, it's not my time yet, woman.
Right.
It's not, because he didn't come in this one. He came as Joseph. So the thing is even there, they're looking back to this, to Genesis 49 and going, oh, Well, these are the things you should be doing. It says it until Shiloh comes. The word Shiloh is used here and only here. Nowhere else in Scripture is the word Shiloh. So they assign that word to be Messiah. And it basically means that there won't be a rule in there until Messiah rules. They will have lost the ability. The way they know that they have that ability is to be able to do capital punishment. And during Yeshua's time when he was younger, I think he was around the age of 12 possibly, is when that scepter was removed. And they cried. Some were like, there's no Messiah. But Anna and Simeon, who are in the temple, said, no, that means there is a Messiah. Now we're looking for him.
Right.
And we look back at Joseph, going to 49:22. It says, Joseph is an offshoot of a fruit-bearing tree. Well, think about when it says, branch of Jacob. Yes. What is that in...
the root of Jesse.
Root of Jesse, that's it. Yeah, in Isaiah, I think it's 11. And the archers are bitterly grieved and shot him and hated him. Well, the first time Yeshua came,
that's
isn't that what they did?
Yes.
Okay, so we have Matthew 21:39 talks about that. Zechariah 13:7 talks about it. Isaiah 28:16. All these scriptures refer to where he is the shepherd, the mighty shepherd, where he's the stone that the builders rejected. Right here. It's coming from Genesis 49, where they know these things. You were separated from his brothers.
Yes.
Whom you separated from your brothers. Isn't that what happened?
Yeshua.
He's separated.
Yes.
They're like, no thanks. And then just like we saw, he's going to reveal himself, he being Yeshua, will reveal himself again to the brothers and bring them in. I mean, this story is so awesome.
Jam-packed.
This is why you cannot understand the New Testament, the Brit Hadashah, without understanding Torah.
Well, you get bits and pieces.
Yeah, but the full, clear understanding, not
and you
until
can't
that.
appreciate. I mean,
and not only that, doesn't the scripture say that you'll know the end from the beginning?
yes.
Here,
Genesis.
yeah, you seriously, it's all there.
You want to know Revelation? Learn
Learn
Genesis.
Absolutely. I mean, he just said this is what's going to happen in the end time.
Yes.
So
Even in the
again,
book.
where we had Yeshua coming and people want to put him in Judah because he is the line of Judah.
Right.
But he's like, not yet. I'm not going to do these things yet. I got to do these. I got to be Joseph first.
Right.
Then I will come back
And be Judah.
and then be Judah, who I am. So moving on. After we have all of that with the prophecies, right, he dies. So Joseph goes to Pharaoh and says, my father died and I swore to him. Mm-hmm. And because he swore, Pharaoh is like, all right, take him. And look, Pharaoh doesn't just send away the family to take him. He sends his people. I mean, they all go and mourn. So much that when they enter the land of Canaan, they're like, whoa, that is a big wig who died. Look at everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, they mourned
It's a big old funeral.
Yeah, they mourned in Egypt, and then they mourned again when they were there in the land of Canaan. So it was a huge thing. So they go bury and they bring back. Well, Joseph, before he dies, says, you guys have to promise me that you will take my bones. So obviously he wasn't expecting them to take them immediately. But he says, when the visitation comes, you take my bones. And the key is, Joseph says, wait. Well, who else says wait right when they leave? Yeshua. In Acts.
Yes, wait for the Spirit.
Yes, wait for the Spirit to come.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it because there's another comparison. You have
and
Joseph saying, wait for the visitation, and Yeshua says, wait for the visitation. Because those two visitations are what's going to tell you when to move and how to move next.
And how many times, and that's a good lesson for us, because how many times do we know that the Lord's given us a promise and something's going to happen, but it may not be us. It may be something on this side of it that needs to happen first, needs to get ready, and then we can go into that.
Right, because we can never see the whole parade.
That's right.
You know, we see through the fence, through the hole. We just see what comes by. He's in the helicopter looking down and seeing the whole parade. Well, we don't know that the elephants are coming after the zebras. We think zebra Z, it's over. And he's like, what? No, I didn't put it in alphabetical order. I got the elephants coming later.
That's right.
So we got to look through that hole, and then when the elephants come out, we're like, oh, awesome. That's the way it is with life. When we wait on the Lord, truly wait, when we see the elephants, we're going, oh, awesome, because we didn't think that would happen that way. Going back to the whole setting up of the prophecies, he gives us those clues, so when we see it happen,
we know where we're at on the timeline.
Just like going back to the dreams with Joseph. If Joseph had not told his brother the dreams, they would not have recognized it as being the hand of God.
Right.
All right, so that's it for this week. I mean, we could spend hours I literally could spend hours talking about this. So thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on the flip side with Julie with Brit Hannah Shaw.
Yes.
Shalom.